The reading is taken from John chapter 19, verses 17 to 24. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. Here they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a note prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but that this man claimed to be King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. "Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled, which said, "They divided my garments among them and cast lots for my clothing." So this is what the soldiers did. Thanks be to God for his word to us today.
When Peter told me that Jesus had been arrested, I thought it was all just a silly misunderstanding. I really thought Jesus would be released again. He's the most wonderful, kind, and gentle man that ever lived. How could they accuse him of doing anything wrong? I kept thinking, well, even if the chief priests wanted him out of the way, Pilate will just laugh at them as there's no case to answer. When Pilate spoke to the crowd and offered to release him, well, I really thought that everything was going to be okay. Only a few days before, the crowds had been cheering when he entered Jerusalem, so surely they'd asked for him to be released. I felt numb and dazed when I heard them shouting for the murderer Barabbas. I thought, what are you doing? How can they be so stupid? I just kept thinking, this can't be happening. It was only then that I realised that Jesus was going to be crucified. Jesus was going to be taken from us. People see me as a strong, practical woman. I've no more than my fair share of suffering in my lifetime. And I'm not the type that starts blubbering whenever things go wrong. But when they took Jesus away, I couldn't hold the tears any longer, and I cried like I'd never cried before. There were tears of anger, of frustration, and of sorrow. But most of all, they were tears for Jesus, as I knew what those soldiers would be doing to him behind those walls. The next time I saw Jesus, he was staggering up the street with a huge bit of wood across his shoulders. Blood was running down his face. He had cuts and bruises all over his body. Huge, ugly bruises. And when he passed me, I saw that his back had been torn to pieces by the flogging. Just a mass of blood with strips of skin hanging off. I'll never forget the sound of the nails being hammered through his wrists and ankles. That sickening crunch each time the nail went through. And I'll never forget the sight of Jesus hanging there when the cross was lifted up. As I looked into his face, that gentle face that was normally so full of love and laughter, all I could see was a face full of agony and suffering. How could they do this to the most wonderful, kind, and gentle man that had ever lived?